So we've talked so much about this, and you've given me so much good content here. I can't wait to put this out. But we've talked very little about what I'm going to assume is going to be something that's going to make me say, fuck the culture. I just want to read a good comic book that's going to tell me a good story and be a little irreverent in that. Based on the title, probably a lot of irreverent. But tell me a little bit about fucking for the future.
Well, I hate nudity on covers. Like in the way that it's being done in general on Kickstarter, because oftentimes it's being used as a tool to sell the books because it can be a tool to sell the books, but it doesn't have any place. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you just took the clothes off of your main character. This kind of changes the way your audience is experiencing your main character, doesn't it? And that is a problem for me. Like, literally, when Merc Publishing was doing my Guns and Angels books that I was doing for them, and they were making these nude covers with some of my characters, I would sit there and I would go, all right, how do I get this into the book in a meaningful way so that I can actually explain this? Because I don't like that she's being depicted like that, because that, like, there's a problem with titties. They're soft. Titties make you look soft. It doesn't make you look hard. It makes you look soft. So when you're trying to depict a character as hard and then her soft bosoms are exposed, doesn't always do that. Granted, sometimes you can get it. You got a girl on a bed with a blade over her head and her titties are out, and all of a sudden, you can juxtapose images and you can do things that are cool, but it definitely changes the experience. But what did I just say? I said a knife and a thing. That's telling you some character. That's telling you story. That's not taking anything away from the character to just all of a sudden there's a version of that cover where she's being a mechanic where her titties are out. Like, oh no, titty mechanic, because she's totally doing that all the time. For me, that undermines the narrative and kind of fucks up your book. And as a writer, that's the only part that I have control of. I hand it off to my artists and they do the thing. And if I am undermined on that fundamental of a level, for me, that's like taking my legs out. So I set it as a challenge after that stupid Jenkins book made all that money to come up with an idea for a book where nudity would be built into the concept so that I wouldn't be betraying my lead character by showing them naked. And I actually did myself a number of levels better than that by the end of it. And, essentially on Planet Glonn 1,000 years ago, the men and the women decided to go separate ways. And the women went to the other side of the planet, formed a matriarchal paradise where they cloning other girls, the young girls, and coming up through the through the ages using robots to build this beautiful harmonious civilization. Meanwhile, the men, they go celibate and they crack open their genetics because they get really smart and they crack open their genetic code and they rewrite their genetics and they turn themselves into these big kind of Bigfoot creatures. And they write it into their genetic code that there will be no more penis envy ever again because each generation's penis will be slightly larger than the previous generation's penis. So that'll never be a problem. So now, 1,000 years later, some of the three-legged men have penises so large that they've been forced to live in the oceans and now roam the oceans in renewed freedom. So the men are living in the wilderness and they haven't seen a woman in 1,000 years. It's producing asexually, but apparently written into their genetic code still, they still producing sperm just in case the women ever decided they wanted to come back. And so the women have built this power armor to go and collect sperm samples because the men are these giant three-legged Bigfoots and the women are these petite little boobless things. And the princess, Princess Dickhouse of New Glon, she volunteers for the program because nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to go out into the wilderness with these men, and she's the princess, and everybody thinks that she's prim and proper, whatever. So she's like, I'm going to volunteer. I got to do something for my country, kind of thing. And now she's out piloting this little power armor. She's in the front of it, and it's got expanding boobs, and it's all these different things that the power armor can do, to attract a man. But the problem is, it's been 1,000 years since the men have seen a woman. And they don't even know what it is. They're not interested in it at all. So the women, they have no real sexual desire towards the man, but they need the man because the man has the sperm, and the man he doesn't fucking know what he's looking at. He's So it's like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon between the sexes.
Oh, this just sounds ridiculous in all the best ways.
It is completely ridiculous in all the best ways. And I mean, I cannot wait to write issue 2 because issue 2, some crazy shit going on in issue 2. I'm really excited.
How big of an arc do you have planned for this? Out of curiosity, it's one of the things as a reader I do find is that I personally like short runs because I like knowing ahead of time, like, okay, if I go into this, what kind of a story can I experience? And if it becomes more than that, that's great. But like, I've been too screwed over as a fan by authors like, say, oh, I don't know, Mr. Game of Thrones, George R. R. Martin, who is never going to finish the story that he conned so many people into becoming in love with. So it's like short runs. I like, man, get me to the end, get me something that kind of wraps up tight, and we'll be good.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's the great thing about this, because like to a certain degree, I was only going to do one. Like I'm just like, it's funny, it gets the concept, and then you move on. But then we've just been having so much fun with it. It's become like, it's very much like the Goon or something. Each one is just an installment in the ongoing shenanigans of this basic premise. Of course, as a writer, I can't help. I keep coming up with sort of deeper levels to things that are going on in the story. And I'm like, oh, wow, over time, this is going to be quite an interesting web woven here in my ridiculous story. But my focus is just on entertaining the fuck out of us, because like it's just such a funny like I'll reveal some of like my second issue, like in the second issue, because we just mentioned in the first issue that because of the genetic thing of the penis growing, that some of the three-legged men have had to return to the water, and he draws one of the aquatic three-legged men, with his dick swinging in the background, and that was like a throwaway line kind of thing. But I'm like, nah, man. All right. Because we end the first issue with the Bossy 2 makes its debut. And the Bossy 2 has a mouth like this. And so that I decided that I want the second issue. First, they fly over this field of these three-legged men who are standing on their penises. They're using their penis as a stilt, and they're just like in meditation. Like on the text. And they're like, "What's that?" Like that's some sort of ritual. They sleep like that on a stilt. And then they land on the beach and they find all these three-legged men who are sunning themselves. And she's gonna sneak up onto the three-legged man's penis, and they're like, one of the three-legged men looks back and he sees it, and he's like, "What's this?" And he like taps the other one on the shoulder, and he looks back. He's like, "What's this?" And the other one taps him on the shoulder. So strange. And then the robot.
I'm sure this isn't in any related, but I'm getting such an Attack on Titan vibe to this thing right now.
Oh well, I mean, but then the robot goes pump, and the thing clamps down on its penis to start pumping, and the three-legged man goes ah, like he's running off into the ocean, dragging her behind him, and he's swimming through the water, smashing her into the coral, and just every story that she has is just going to end with her flying into the air and like crashing through some trees, and like the power armor's broken again. Back to the drawing board. All right, we'll try it again later, see if it works.
I love it. Well, Jesse, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great conversation. Once again, I cannot really wait to put this out to people.
Thanks for having me, Nicky. I'm so sorry for being late earlier. My stupid computer in the time zone.
No, you're good, man. Where can I send people? What's the easiest place to get people to buy a copy of this?
Yeah, well, you can go to Kickstarter and you type in "fucking for our future," or if you want like a really nice, simple kind of preview of like all the art and stuff, we have it set up on the website for Blacklight District Studios. That's my comic book publisher. It's bldsts.com. bldsts.com. So yeah, so you can go there and you can see like a whole preview of it and stuff. But I'm on Twitter. I'm Cool as Geek JBS, and of course he was talking about if you're a geek culture guy, every Wednesday and Saturday morning I do coolest picks, movies and TV shit that's like great, and like other stuff like that, and then just commentary on what's going on in the industry, and and just like generally speaking, the way Hollywood likes to try to adapt the shit that matters to us.